Jane Nelson, Gate Street.
Thank you.
I'm sorry to inflict paper on you. And you're very, very lucky that my printer ran out of ink. I also am grateful for the time I know you're going to be spending on this committee, both at 7:30 in the morning and at night. I do want to refer to some impact on the residents that is not openly discussed. And I found out in the course of asking a number of questions of other residents that there are many people in the city who have no idea what has been happening to us, the residents, the near residents. And the first of the concerns that some of us still have is the hostility, there's no other word, of the PPAF and its supporters against those of us with the temerity to object to noise, the number of events, or other behaviors in the park under the present management of Mr. Anderson. We have been attacked publicly and privately in social media and in the press. We have been lied to, believe me, and lied about. We have been identified as retirees with too much time on our hands, which is far, far from the truth. And we have been threatened. When at one of the few meetings with Mr. Anderson, a resident who does not attend these meetings here, asked if he would disavow his association with the social media threats because they had had an impact on the neighborhood. He claimed to have no awareness of such actions, nor did the members of the PPAF board who were present. I suggest you look carefully into the documentation. I am not on social media because I don't have the time nor the desire, but I have received many copies of the trolling that I've included here from various residents who are. The attacks have continued, and those representing the festival, Mr. Kelly, Ms. Cavallaro, and Trevor Bartlett are regular contributors. And Mr. Bartlett has made his political clout visible when he points out in a letter to the council members, and I quote, this is before the last election, social media may seem like a newish tool, but please don't underestimate its efficacy in getting folks to act. Our numbers are not completely comprised of Portsmouth residents, true, but I'm still quoting, but a very small percentage of our over 5,000 members could easily make a right big difference from this November. I'm speaking of before the last election. That's a fact. To quote, continue the quote, many of our core are professional organizers, producers, directors, communicators, and promoters. We whip up crowds for a living. We have the means, experience, purpose, and intent to drum up a great number of other people who are from here and vote, unquote. the contrast of this attitude with the behavior of the owner of Bernie's in Hampton Beach, recently reported in the Herald, is impressive. He intends to work with the neighbors concerning the noise. And this is the first complaint against him, I believe. And the selectmen of Hampton intend to visit the houses of residents to hear the sound level for themselves. This certainly has not happened to those of us who have felt our houses vibrating from the decibel levels hitting them. We have even been told by members of the police force, and apparently this is true, though not recently, that we are not protected by zoning because the festival has permission. Apparently that is the case, but it continues to be a problem. And we have indeed been subjected to the practices of PR 101. Again, I quote from a local practitioner, quote, "In order to create an atmosphere of public support, experts developed a strategic plan to isolate the opposition as an unreasonable minority," that was done, "create positive paid and something media, and communicate the benefits in a way that would mobilize local support. One should quickly identify key influentials in the community that would provide the high visibility support and lend gravitas," end quote. In this case, it included such advice on community affairs as Kate Murray and such prominent supporters as Jamie French, both of whom spoke on keeping Portsmouth loud and on other matters. I might add from PR Psychology 101 that if you suggest that something will be taken away from someone, they will see such action as something they should prevent. All of this PR obscures the real issues, which I think this committee is trying genuinely to address, and prevents any real dialogue on solutions. Going into this summer, unfortunately, the action continues on social media. Councillor Pearson's proposal to change "not in my backyard" to "yes in my backyard" has been picked up by those wanting to change the zoning, which would then lead to acceptance of greater decibel levels. I should add that any restrictions on PPAF that a new contract imposes may be difficult to enforce without substantial penalties for not conforming. Mr. Anderson has acted with relative impunity to date and has made no substantial adjustments to his operations in spite of violating his present contract in a number of ways, the one that is available or has been available. My second contextual concern this morning has to do with this behavior and PPAF's function as a non-profit. Mr. Anderson's actions and the boards are not representative of any of the non-profits I have been closely involved with. As a promoter, Mr. Anderson has enormous advantages because the PPAF is a non-profit, and he enjoys the privilege of operating in a city park as a near monopoly. His overhead is incredibly modest, an advantage other promoters might envy. Over and over in public statements, his supporters praise him as someone who has made PPAF an economic engine for the city. He has earned the admiration of the business community, who identified him as Businessman of the Year. His salary, over $100,000, is impressive, but is the mission of a nonprofit the promotion of local business? It is perhaps a question that should be examined in the course of your discussions. For the interests of business are not the interests of a residential community. They can't be. They are often in conflict, and it is one of the advantages of PPAF that its reputation makes it easier to sell what might be called advertising and VIP privileges to supporters. At least these functions should be considered by the committee. One last comment on noise. It is the character of contemporary pop music at the moment that it be loud. The research and commentary on this is substantial, extensive, and readily available. Loud is necessary to the maintenance of a hip image, which itself also has economic functions. And that can be both researched and documented. Thank you, and good luck.
Thank you.